So hello everybody, and welcome to 1080's Learning at Work Week 2022. I just want to start with an apology because it appears that the system was saying that this session was running at 12 and we're running it at 1 today. So for anyone who unfortunately had it down for 12, we'll share with you the recording after this session. But I'm going to get underway and introduce you to Joan O'Connor, our Head of Leadership Development, who will be talking on leadership and purpose today.
Thanks, Hannah. Hello, everybody, and welcome to today's session. As Hannah said, we are linking this with the Learning at Work Week for this year. And the theme this year for Learning at Work Week is about learning uncovered. And there are 3 strands, and I am linking today's session very much to the strand that is about uncovering new dimensions. Within that, what we're talking about is with the challenges that are going on in the world, within the globe, we're having to rethink the way we work, how we operate at work. And it's an opportunity for us to be refreshing our skills, our approaches. And I thought it'd be a great time to take a little bit of time to think about leadership and why purpose is so important to be an inspiring leader and one that enables others. So I'm going to share some thoughts with you today. I encourage you to put questions or comments into the comments section, and Hannah is going to share the comments with us as they come up, and I will do my best to be answering them as we go along. Okay, so let's get started. Let's start with a question. And I'm keen to understand or hear if there are any comments that people have around this. But this question, what is the role of a leader? When I typed this into Google, I got, as you can imagine, many, many pages of options for answers to this. And I did not spend my time going through them. But I thought it was really interesting just to think about how many different ways we can be answering this question. And equally, if I ask this question of people, I get lots and lots of different answers. But actually, there are some threads that run through what I hear. And a lot of it is about people want a leader that they can believe in. They want someone who has a vision and shares it, that has a sense of direction and is willing to engage them in that. They want a leader who is interested in them. And they want a leader who is willing to stand for something more than just their own personal success. And of course, that's great that that's what people want, and I absolutely is what they should be after. But the question then becomes, well, how do we achieve that as leaders? So let's take some time to think about this. And I've said about purpose is at the heart of this, because to achieve all those things that individuals are asking for, we have to have a grounding. We have to have a core that helps give us a path and a way forward and will help guide the way we operate. And why does this matter? Well, again, we hear in organizations, many employees saying many different things, such as, what are we trying to achieve as an organization? And why does what we do matter? Does it matter? People are always interested to know how what they do fits within the overall organization's goals as well. And more, and particularly over the last few years, we have been seeing and hearing people asking the question, is my organization a force for good? Is it making a positive impact in the world? So these are some pretty fundamental questions that we're hearing people ask. And even if people aren't asking those questions, because, some people do just come to work, they may be thinking about it from, I've got bills to pay, so I'm here to do a job, and that's what matters. But even when they're in that mode, very often, again, what we hear people saying is, gosh, I wish this was more enjoyable. And so as leaders, it's incumbent upon us to be thinking about what is the best way that we can make or individuals in organizations feel engaged, feel connected, and feel they are able to do their best work. So for me, these are some of the reasons why purpose is at the heart of being a good and an inspiring leader. So this is a quote from Brent Gleason, who is an author, and he's recently had a book come out, and he's a contributor to Forbes. And for me, again, this really quite sums up a lot of what we're talking about why purpose does matter. So if we look at what he's saying, when you lead with purpose in any environment, you radiate an energy and passion for the work. Your passion impacts everyone around you. It inspires and motivates others. And I absolutely believe that this is true. So when I did a master's many years ago, and one of the papers I wrote at the time was called Leadership is in the Eye of the Beholder. And I still think this holds true today. You know, as leaders, it's important that we are able to adapt and flex to what our employees need of us to make sure we are giving them the kind of leadership that they personally need. But that creates a big ask for leaders because you are having to be different things to many different people so that you can give them what they need from you. Leading with purpose gives you something universal to work with. You can inspire people with your energy, your passion for what you believe in, and that conviction that goes with that. And then from that, you can build on this and then adapt what it is that you need to do in order to meet those needs of others. So for me, this is very, very important. As leaders, we are connecting with that sense of energy and what compels us to do the work that we do. And I can see Jeffrey Milton has put a couple of comments in there. And Jeffrey, you'll not be surprised to hear me agree with what you're saying. The whole piece about people, not process. And in fact, we can take it one stage further, people, not process, and people before profits. And again, we're seeing a lot more of that coming through in the way that leaders and the way that businesses are talking about the focus and approach they're giving. If the last 2 years have taught us anything, it is that we do have to connect more with that human dimension. It is all about you as a human being connecting with other human beings to help them understand why they're in the organization and what they're looking to achieve. And you're absolutely right, Jeffrey. I can see another comment. Energy and passion are human things. Well, at the end of the day, we are all human beings. And this is why bringing it back to this point about purpose, when we can be clear on our own purpose, we are showing who we are as a human being, and we're then enabling others to engage with us and to think about it from their perspective as well. So the leaders who do this, who do radiate their energy and passion, who do show their conviction, and who do live, lead, and behave according to it, they're the ones who typically in organizations will have people coming to them and asking them to say that they want to work for them. So there's many benefits for operating like this in an organization. I'd like you to take a moment to think about somebody you know who you believe leads with purpose, who leads with energy and passion. I can think about somebody, a client of mine who I have worked with, and I've watched her go through a couple of organizations, and she most definitely radiates the passion and energy that she believes around the work that she does. And you always hear her talking about the reasons why she does the work she does. She's somebody who is very, very focused in helping others develop so they can be at their best. And this runs through everything that she does, both in her individual conversations, the strategies, and the initiatives that she takes into her organization. So I often hold her in my mind as an example of somebody who I believe very much lives up to this quote that we can see on the screen. So I think take time to think about what it is that you see in these people that lead with purpose. What do you hear them seeing? What are the behaviors you see? And what's the impact that it has on you? And if you struggle to think of somebody, then I encourage you to go out and do some observations and find out some people that you can relate to and can see operating like that. But it's not just about the leader's attributes. When we have a purpose that we work from, it helps us have focus and to build resilience. So it enables us to focus on the activities that are important, that align with our purpose. It makes it a lot easier for us to know what to drop, what's a distraction, what's noise, and the things we shouldn't focus on, particularly when times are challenging or that we're in change or the things that are uncertain. It gives us a pathway It gives us something to guide the decision making that we have to do. It gives us a chance to think about, based on that purpose, what is the best for me, the best for the organization, the best for my team, the best for the world, even if we take it out even further. So what is the best for the situation? Our purpose helps us to dig deep and persevere because we know why we are doing what we're doing, and we are looking to achieve that goal that we have. So it helps us keep a sense of what is possible when we can connect with that purpose. So I've talked so far a little bit about why purpose is important. But how does one create a purpose? And again, if any of you do feel that you have a purpose that is very clear to you, I encourage you to share that in the comments with us so that others can hear about it. So when I'm working with clients and I'm talking to them about, why are they a leader? It is really interesting when I ask these questions of people. So I'll often start with questions around, why are you a leader? Who are you as a leader? And what do you want to achieve as a leader? Now, these questions are designed to make you think, and they certainly do that. And in fact, they often stop people in their tracks, because often what I find is people have maybe not taken the time or invested the time to be thinking about the answers to these questions. And sometimes when they have taken the time, they're not used to regularly communicating, sharing the purpose or the answer to these questions with other people. And so answers I've typically heard when I ask these questions is, oh, I haven't really thought about it yet. Or sometimes it's a case of, oh, well, I've recently been promoted into the role and I've found myself in a leadership role. And again, many of us, it could be a personal experience, or we may know of people who, by having been given a promotion because they're great at their work, have found themselves now managing and leading people. And maybe hadn't really thought about what that was going to be like when they got there. Equally, there are people who have always wanted to be a leader, but again, maybe haven't really fully thought about, well, what does it mean when I become a leader? So when we are clear on our purpose, it is a lot easier for us to be able to answer these questions, but not just to be answer them for ourselves. It shows up in the way that we behave. It shows up in the way that we work and engage with our team members and with others in the organization. And this is what Simon Sinek refers to as about knowing your why. We're typically very good at knowing what we do and how we do it, but often we're less good at articulating this why, this purpose. So when you see this piece about know your why, what we're really talking about here is knowing your purpose. And so again, if you haven't taken the time to be thinking about that yet, I encourage you to put some time aside in your schedule and to be thinking about, why is it that I do what I do? Why is it that I lead these people and want to lead people? What's the impact that I want to have for myself, for others, and within my organization? So let's think a little bit about, how do we do this? Now, there are many different exercises that you can do to help you discover your leadership purpose. And in fact, Simon Sinek, who I mentioned a moment ago, has a book called Find Your Why. And that gives a very thorough process within the book about how to go about doing that. But what I'm sharing with you right now is a starting point. It's some exercises to do and some questions to think about to help you start either engaging with your why or re-engaging with it, depending on where you're at. And I know when I did this exercise for myself on the left, it really crystallized for me the work I wanted to do in my career. I'm talking about a number of years ago. And as I came to the conclusion that the work that I love to do, that my purpose in my work is about enabling others to make a positive difference in their lives, then I had this real sense of compulsion. I knew that I just had to do the work that I was thinking about in order that I could satisfy and deliver on that purpose that I have. And it's a really good way, it's a good test to know if you've hit your purpose, because that sense of being compelled to do it will come up for you. It will all be almost be like, there's no other option for me here. This is what I must do. This is what I want to do. So take some time to look at the answers to these questions. It can take a little bit of time. You can do it to whatever level you want, but taking time to think about the things in your career that have really, when you've had a real sense of clarity and you knew what you were doing and why you were doing it, whilst at the same time you were feeling really engaged and fulfilled in doing it, and that you could see the impact you were having on people and others around you. Gather a number of stories or examples to help you be able to see patterns and themes coming through. And once these start coming through, take the time to stop and think about, okay, well, what are these telling me? What is it that I'm noticing? So as I say, for me, it was very much about recognizing that when I was working with individuals or teams or groups, seeing them making some small shifts or big shifts in either their thinking or their behavior was incredibly satisfying to me. And it still is to this day. I still get real satisfaction when working with a client and I hear them either have a light bulb moment or commit to making some change in the way they work or in the way that they behave. And then they come back and tell me that they have done that. And not only have they done it, but that it has worked. So think about, what it is that you can see coming through. As a leader, it will probably have something to do with the way that you are able to engage your people and develop them and help them be at their best in order that they can deliver. And as you get these themes and patterns, think about, so this is great, these are coming through. Which ones still feel relevant for me now? Which ones still feel relevant for me in the future? And that starts to form your purpose, the core of your purpose. Having got that information, it's worth taking some time then to think about those reasons why you are a leader or you want to be a leader. And in identifying the answers to that questions, do think about, so how does that fit with my emerging themes that are coming through? Are they in alignment with each other? If they are, fantastic. And then it's a case of looking at them and thinking about, okay, what ones are most important to me? And what is the order of importance here? And I can just see there's a comment coming up, so I'm going to have a little look at it. How much is being a good leader innate and how much is a product of experience? Great question, William. Thank you very much for putting it up. And as you probably know, this is an ongoing debate that has been going on for decades, I think. Personally, I am a believer that there is a bit of both going on there. I think there can be an element of nature, but I do think definitely a lot of it is product of experience. And this is why it's so important we take the time to be thinking about the experiences that we've had, the people that have been in our lives, in order to help us work out what has shaped me. And I can link this a little bit right now with the whole piece about strengths. And tomorrow, my colleague Liz Osland is running a session around leading in a hybrid world, and she will be touching upon strengths there. There are different definitions of strengths, but one of those definitions is about things that are innate to us, the things that we enjoy doing, that energize us, and that we are either good at or can become good at. So I think, as a leader, some of us will have some innate characteristics within us and innate strengths, things that we enjoy doing quite naturally. However, I do believe it is possible that you can learn to be a leader, a good leader. You can learn to be an effective leader, and you can learn to be an inspiring leader. And again, if I link it back to this whole thing about purpose, when we find our own purpose, we tend to have a really strong emotional connection. And I've talked before about it being a compulsion, being compelled to do it. We can use that strength, that emotional connection to our own purpose to help us think about, well, what kind of leader do I want to be there for? If this is what I want to achieving in life and in my work, what does this mean for how I engage with others? So William, to answer your question, I do believe there is a lot about the product of experience. But I think for some people, there are some natural interests and strengths that can come through. But as long as people are willing to put the effort and time into learning how to be a good leader, I do think it is possible. Again, I'd be interested if anybody else has any comments that they want to share in response to William's questions. Please feel free to pop them into the comments box. Okay, so as I've said, do take time. And in fact, I want to go back to this piece about, well, what happens if the reasons you want to be a leader are not aligning with what is emerging as the themes and patterns for you around your purpose. Well, that in itself is really useful information, isn't it? It gives you something to think about. And again, I'd be encouraging you to be thinking about, so do I really want to be a leader? If the purpose that I'm coming up with is really true to me, what does being a leader mean like that? And not everybody needs to be a leader. Not everybody wants to ultimately be a leader once they understand what their purpose is about. So it's a question of thinking about, well, what are the changes I need to make or want to make, either so that I can bring my purpose into being a leader, or maybe I take a decision that leadership is not for me. And I think, wherever way that goes, that is a really important piece for you to think about, because ultimately you can be at your best when you're combining that purpose with the role and activity that you have in the organization. Equally, if your whole heart is not in it, it is likely to show up and people will see that you're not giving your best of it. I think we can all think of people who either have inspired us because that purpose comes through, as I mentioned before, but equally the ones we could tell who are kind of going through the motions a little bit. And I certainly know of my own experience, and I can even feel it now as I sit here now, and I encourage you to do the same. If you've worked with somebody like that who's going through the motions, who's being a little mechanistic, it does take something away from your sense of energy and your spirit and the way that you choose to engage in the organization. Julie Burry, I can see that you've put a comment in. Thank you. It is important to have alignment between your own purpose and strengths and those of the organization you are working in. You are absolutely spot on, Julie. And thank you for that lovely segue into my next point, which is very much that. It is, it's great. So far, I have been talking about, as an individual, being clear on your purpose as a leader. However, we do not work in isolation. Back to Julie's point, we work within a system. And it is really important that we are thinking about, how does what you stand for, what you believe in, what your purpose is, how does it fit within your organization, within your team? And I also take it that one step forward, within the society, the community that you belong with. And if we take it a step forward, the effect, the impact that you can have on the world. So my encouragement is particularly to take that time to work out for you your leadership purpose, first of all. And as you do that, then bring it out wider and expand it to be thinking about the wider system that you are a part of. This sometimes is referred to as purposeful leadership. And as you can see, I've put a definition on the screen of what we mean by purposeful leadership. This is only one definition. However, it was one that struck me when I read it, and particularly around the words moral and ethical. So the definition here is the extent to which a leader has a strong moral self, a vision for their team, and takes an ethical approach to leadership marked by a commitment to stakeholders. And the reason that I've picked up on the words moral and ethical is because purposeful leadership is about being intentional. It's about being intentional about the way we lead. It's intentional about the way we connect with others and that impact that we have. And it's very much looking to come at it from an approach of being constructive and generative with others. It's very much about, am I doing the right thing? Am I doing the best for other people? Am I having that positive impact? And the reason why the words moral and ethical stand out for me particularly are, sometimes we joke about, people could have a purpose that's not a very positive purpose, but actually, there's a serious point to that. What you believe in, the convictions you have to work within the environment that you are in. And taking an ethical approach is about saying, that thing about, am I doing the right thing? I'm sure we can all think of organizations and people who espouse one thing as their purpose and then they do something else. And again, I certainly noticed a greater amount of that being called out in the last couple of years. When we work from a purposeful leadership point of view, we are creating an accountability when we put it out there for others to hear. If we're going to do that, we have to be ready to do what our words say. We cannot be saying one thing and operating differently. Or if we do, we will be typically held to account on it. So I think this is something, again, that's really important for us to be thinking about, this whole piece about how am I engaging with others in the organisation, in the society, in the world. And I can just see that William has put a comment in, so I'm going to take a second just to have a look at that. My thoughts, my own question are that a lot about our individual approach to leadership, style, compassion, consideration are driven by innate skills, whereas learnt technical skills and experience drive aspects such as how we interpret organizational context, strategy and vision, and we need both. Again, we absolutely do need both, William. And again, I do agree with you that some of those qualities that you're talking there about compassion and consideration, for some people they are innate. However, I have worked with people over my career where those qualities were maybe not as innate as they are in other people. Those individuals, though, have learned how to become compassionate and how to be more considerate of others. So I think there is scope for people to learn. They may never become necessarily the most compassionate people on the earth, perhaps. However, they can learn to understand why it's important and also to be able to operate in that way. So I still have hope, based on my experience, that it is possible. But there is no doubt that we definitely need both in the way that we lead, both in our immediate teams and in organizations as a whole. Okay, so we're coming towards the end of my talk for today. So again, I encourage you, if there are any more questions coming up that you would, or comments that you'd like to make, to put them into the comments box. What I've been talking about so far today, as Jeffrey pointed out earlier, is very much coming at it from the benefits to individuals, the benefits to humans. You're coming at it very much from that human perspective, and how we can inspire and enable people through the way that we share and live by our purpose. However, if you're still not convinced that having a purpose as a leader is something that is important to have, there are some good statistics out there that can also add to this debate. So, and here's one of them. Piece of research done by the people mentioned on the slide. They did some work that showed that high level of purpose in individuals and in organizations, those organizations that had a high level of purpose, they outperformed the market by 5 to 7% per year. Now, for me, any percentage where that purpose is showing as being an advantage has got to be worth thinking about and following through on. It also said that they grew faster and had higher profitability. So if you are somebody who likes to have some rational states, rational statistics to back up the reasons, if you've got to convince some people to work from purpose, I think this is one that could be very useful for that. My attention was just caught by a couple of comments that popped into the comments box. So somebody has put in, they agree with William, learned technical skills can be learned, and those innate skills are not mutually exclusive. So absolutely, again, completely agree with that comment. We need all of them in our jobs as leaders. The one thing I would say around that, though, is we have to be careful as leaders, particularly if we've been a technical leader, that we don't hang on too much to our technical abilities, our technical skills, because sometimes they can get in the way of us leading fully, because that risk of needing to know the answer, wanting to share the answer, being the first one to come up with the answer, sometimes that can interfere with us being purely in leading mode, which the way I'm talking about it right now is about enabling others maybe to come up with the answer for themselves, to coach others, to help them develop. So we absolutely need both, but those of you who class yourself as technical leaders, just watch out for that one. There's the book by Marshall Goldsmith, and the title I just love, which is What Got You Here Won't Get You There. And I think that very much plays to that point, is we get to a certain stage in our career, whether as a leader or not, and we've had skills and abilities that have got us there. But at some point when our role changes, we have to be ready to let go of some things. So as I say, it's just a watch out. for those of you who are technical leaders, just be careful that you're not hanging too much onto that past knowledge, which will still be important to you, but maybe less useful in the stage that you're at as a leader.
Absolutely. Thanks, Joan. Sorry, I was going to say, Joan, we've also got a question in from Kate.
Yep, I've just seen that. Thank you, Hannah. Yep. So a question. Alignment is really important. But is there any danger it drifts into groupthink? We hide it in our own image, people like us, and stifles diversity and or innovation. What do you do to avoid this? Great question, Kate. And you are right. Like anything, where the positive exists, there's always the potential for either unintended consequences or a negative. And I think, innovation is something that is so important within leading and within organizations. So I think the first thing is to be aware that this can happen. And it's incumbent again on each of us as leaders to be thinking about, okay, well, what are, not just what are the benefits of what I bring with this focus, this conviction that I have, but what are the risks and downsides? So I do believe as leaders, it is really important that we take the time to have that level of self-awareness of, what could be the unintended consequence, what could be something that could be negative if I operate in this way, and to think about, and if that were the case, how will I mitigate it? And it will be different things for different people depending on your organization. But I think as leaders, I've talked a lot about enable your people. I think one of the things you can do is make sure that you are involving the people around you to highlight things to you, to give you feedback, to point out to you if you are taking things in a particular direction. I think it's also important that you are making sure you are connecting outside of your immediate world, so going beyond what is happening in your immediate team or even your immediate organization. And this piece around diversity and whatever form that takes, whether it's around in terms of the people that you have around you or whether it's around diversity of thought, it is important that you are going out there and you are seeing what is happening elsewhere. One of the best things we can do as leaders is go and observe and watch and learn from people who are not part of the same sector as us, who don't do the same kind of work for us. What is it they're doing? What ideas can you pick up from them? But also to let it challenge your thinking, because there is a risk that we do get into that we know best. And I'm sure many of us can admit to having thought that at some point or another. So we have to be going out there, scanning what is happening elsewhere, learning from other people. If we bring it back to the theme of the Learning at Work week, which is about uncovering new dimensions, I think that is very, very important. How do we make sure we are continually learning along the way? I just thought something else had popped into the comments, Hannah, but I'm not sure anything else had done.
No,
so if you could just check that. Oh, okay, thank you. So Kate, I hope that gives you some thoughts. And again, before we finish, if you have any thoughts that you'd like to add in as to what you think that we could be doing to avoid any sense of groupthink happening, please do put it in. I think my final comment around that is, when we're talking about alignment, it is important that we are refreshing it on an ongoing basis. Right at the start, I was saying, if you haven't taken the time, take the time to think of your purpose. But if you have, then take time to review it, because nothing stands still. And even our purpose will adapt based on whatever we are and whatever is happening around us at any point in time. So that need and that it is important to be constantly refreshing and thinking about, where am I now and how does my purpose still fit with where I'm at and what is happening either in my organization, etc. Okay, so that brings me to the end of what I wanted to share with you today. Thank you very much for being here. Thank you to those of you who have put comments into the comments box. I do appreciate it that you have. Thank you, Kate, for that comment. I like the fact that you like the idea of getting outside your sector. So I hope you do. And if you do, please do let us know how you get on and what you learn. It can be great to hear from other people. We like to keep the conversation going if we can. So thank you for being here. As I said, we have another session tomorrow. I mentioned earlier from our colleague Liz Osland, and she will be talking about leading in a hybrid world. If you can, please do attend live. If you're interested in it and can't attend live, then sign up and then we will send the recording to you afterwards. I'm going to hand back to Hannah so she can say any final comments that she would like to say.
Thank you, Joan. That was a brilliant session. Well done. Thank you for all the comments and lots of questions. We've got lots of thank yous coming in. So thank you, Joan. And as Joan said, we do have this session tomorrow at 1 with Liz Osland, leading in a hybrid world. And as Joan said, if you register, then you can't attend. We can send you the recording. But just want to say, everyone, thank you very much for attending today. And we hope you've enjoyed the session for your Learning at Work week. So thank you very much.
Goodbye.
Bye.